Another fun perspective that you can look at from this, and this is where my mind always goes when I'm trying to stimulate or trying to grow or rehab a specific small area. The stimulus sent to that area, the area will adapt based on the frequency and the intensity of the signal.
Okay.
So more or less what I mean by that is, like, if you consistently send the signal of like your max effort as hard as you possibly can, the body's going to send resources to build up, whether muscle, tendon, ligament, any type of tissue, even bone to a certain extent based on a specific stimulus sent. That will adapt, but it's the signal of the nervous system that forces drive to the body to build up, break down, or maintain that area. It's going to be very important. So that'll get into our next point on the intensity. I almost think about intensity as like a meter. So when you look at a meter, 100% is like the max effort your muscle, body, tissues can possibly give. Then there is 0. So it's that signal from like 0 to 25%. 25 to 50%, that small range, that is more for the rehabilitation. That's more for when you want to send resources for the body to slowly start building up. Once you get to 50, 75, 90-ish percent, that's where you're either maintaining the same tissues you want versus like the 90 to 100%. That's where you start sending that stimulus for the tissues to adapt, like you're trying to gain more access to areas. You're trying to build and open things up from there. So that's where you start noticing that intensity. Now there's also a intensity above 100%. And that's where you start getting to the absolute strength, to where, this is back in the Soviets when like they're building up in the Soviets, like in the, gosh, I think it was 70s, 80s, they sent all the resources and funding from the government for the training purposes. I think a lot of this had to do for a mental mindset against the Americans during the Cold War, but that's where you start noticing all this research around this training. But a lot of the foundation of the training today came from that specific time frame.
I did not know that.
It's incredible. So that's where they start breaking down what are the principles of strength, or what are the only ways that you can lift. So you're training 100% max resistance, max intensity. That's what's known as, for some, maximal effort method. And then there's a dynamic effort method where speed and velocity is going to be the most important thing. And strength and speed are very similar. When you look at the intensity to move a heavy object, you're going to be moving incredibly slow, versus a lighter object, you're able to go quicker.
Yeah.
So instead of going max effort at the max amount of load, you're taking off load and you're going for speed, which adds
So max
into
effort,
principle.
just quick.
Yes,
With
quick effort.
Probably less resistance, but
Yes.
you're at least doing it as fast as you can do it.
100%.
Got it.
So that changes the signal from the nervous system to tissues, which can get into explosive movements, which can get into certain athletic abilities, which can also help reframe from, if you're older, tripping on something, falling and breaking a hip. And then the other one is repeated efforts till failure. So this is like time to failure, time under tension, moving a weight, an object, a body part, as long as humanly possible until you fatigue out for that one rep. And then there is repeated efforts not till failure. So you're setting the signal to where maybe you feel good muscle burn, but you still could do more. And that's that signal sent. So we're wanting to either send the signal to muscle failure, repeated movements, not till failure. We're going to failure as much as hard as we possibly can for that rep. Speed at a high rate or strength at a high rate.
Doctor, would you say that a lot of people unfortunately fall into the not getting to failure as a reason to why maybe their stimulus intensity isn't met at fullest capacity? And would that be another reason why individual, because what I've been told, and from what a lot of people that I listen to, is if you don't get even close to not getting to failure, your growth will be limited and minimal at best. Is that true?
To a certain extent, yes. Depends on trained versus untrained.
Sure.
That will get us into like the three training zones, which I'll get to in a second, because part of it is either we're sending the signal for the tissues to rebuild, and most people aren't sending that signal.
Got it.
They're going to a decent amount of effort, but it's either not for a right amount of duration time in that signal, or they're not sending to the fullest ability because they're afraid, more common than not, that they're going to hurt, injure
Got it.
themselves,
Got it.
or that they're afraid that the recovery is going to be sucky
Yeah, for
afterwards,
sure,
kind of deal.